All right, let's get right into this finale. We're going to be exploring a story that's all about reality, about connection, and, well, about the incredible power of a single choice that literally changes everything. So, the story kicks off in a world that has, finally found its balance after some pretty chaotic times. But there's this feeling, this unsettling, almost too perfect sheen on everything. You just get the sense that something isn't quite right. Yeah, for a select few, this so-called perfection felt like a total lie. They started to see things, cracks, these little glitches in the fabric of their reality. And these people, they started calling themselves the witnesses of silence. They could pick up on these anomalies that just everyone else was completely blind to. I'm talking remembering things that supposedly never happened, seeing these voids, this emptiness in places where there should be substance. They just felt deep down that reality had been edited somehow. So, based on this shared feeling, they put together a theory. And it was a pretty simple one. They came to believe their whole world, all of its stability, was being held together by one central connection. And they decided, hey, if it's a connection, it can be tested. They wanted to find out what would happen if you just broke it. And here's where it gets really fascinating. All of their investigations, every single anomaly they tracked, it all pointed back to just two people, Akira and Mio. They weren't just part of the system, they were the system. They were the epicenter, the linchpin, holding all of reality together. Now, the witnesses weren't evil, not in the way you might think. And honestly, that's what made them so dangerous. They had no plans for some big, violent attack. No, their weapon of choice was way more subtle and a whole lot more effective. So, the first sign that something was wrong wasn't some huge explosion or a big declaration of war. It was quiet. It was internal. Akira just felt it. She felt the bond she shared with Mio tremble, like something deep inside it had just cracked under some kind of invisible pressure. And Mio felt it too. This sudden, terrifying distance just opened up between them out of nowhere. Her panicked words right here, they happened at the exact same moment the world itself started to glitch. The sky flickered, sounds just vanished. It was the first real proof that their connection was directly plugged into the stability of, well, everything. And this just lays out their whole strategy perfectly. See, they weren't trying to overpower the connection with brute force. They were undermining it from the inside out. Their weapon wasn't power, it was doubt. A carefully planted, corrosive doubt. They whispered these questions, right? Things designed to just eat away at the foundation of Akira and Mio's bond. What if your feelings aren't even real? What if you're just a program, just part of a system? These weren't just questions. They were poison, aimed right at the heart of the certainty that held their connection together. And here's the thing. This psychological attack, it actually worked. The constant questioning just chipped away at their bond until it just faded. It didn't break with some big bang, it just dissolved into silence, almost like it had never even been there in the first place. So, as their connection disappeared, the world that was literally built on top of it started to crack apart. The fundamental laws of their reality just began to fail. The ocean lost all its depth, the horizon blurred into nothing, and every coherent sound just evolved into static. Total chaos. Okay, let's get to the climax, because this is where everything builds to this incredibly powerful resolution. With the world literally collapsing and the connection totally gone, Akira has this profound realization. She realized that the terror she was feeling wasn't really about the crumbling reality all around her. It wasn't about the world ending. It was something so much more personal, so much more focused. She was simply afraid of losing Mio. And in that moment of absolute clarity, she just stopped fighting. She stopped trying to prove the connection was real. She stopped trying to hold the world together. Instead, she just accepted the doubt. She accepted all of it and made a simple, incredibly powerful declaration. Now, this wasn't some kind of signal to reboot a system. It wasn't a desperate plea to get back what was lost. This was a conscious choice, a choice made from a place of acceptance, staring right into the void and the silence. And then, impossibly, that single choice rebuilt their bond from absolutely nothing. But it was different this time. You see, the original connection was a function of the world's system. It depended on that structure. This new connection, this was a deliberate act of will, completely independent of any system at all. And this one deeply personal act of choosing had consequences that changed the entire universe for everyone, fundamentally rewriting the very nature of their world. I mean, in a way, the witnesses got exactly what they wanted. They proved the world was a construct, and they successfully tore down the system running it. But they were completely powerless against an individual's choice. Their logic, their entire plan, it just couldn't account for a simple act of pure will. So the world that came back was totally different. The old structure was gone. No central observer, no pre-written system holding it all together anymore. It was now a reality built not on a single forced truth, but on a whole network of personal, chosen bonds between individuals. This final exchange between them just captures that profound shift perfectly. See, getting rid of a system doesn't just make you free, it makes you responsible. They and everybody else are now in charge of creating and maintaining the very connections that make up their world. And that's where the story leaves us, with this final, chilling question. In a world where reality is literally built on choice, where connections can be forged with enough will to reshape everything, it suggests that new powers, new creators, maybe even new gods, are always a possibility. So who will be next?